Hello again to everyone. Welcome for joining us back for day 4 of Careers Week. Today, I'm very excited to say that we've got Dr. Kertu Tenso with us, sharing her tips and tricks to help you transition out of academia and how to build your own personal brand. So before we kick things off, I'd just like to share a couple slides to introduce you to Protein Tech in case you are unfamiliar with who we are. So Protein Tech is a leading life science reagent manufacturer of antibodies and immunoassays, and we have an extensive portfolio of antibodies that encompass many different research areas. We also offer kits such as ELISA kits and IHC kits, as well as cell separation kits and antibody labeling kits. And within our Protein Tech brand, we also have our humankind branded cytokines and growth factors, and all of our recombinant proteins are raised in HEC293 cells, so you can be confident that they'll have the native folding, post-translational modifications, and glycosylation that you'd expect to see in human proteins. We also have our Chromotech branded nanobody-based reagents, and nanobodies are about 10 times smaller than traditional antibodies, and they can bind to their targets with really high affinity, making them ideal for immunoprecipitation, super-resolution microscopy, and protein purification. And lastly, we have a subsidiary of Protein Tech called Protein Tech Genomics that manufactures antibodies that are conjugated to oligonucleotides to allow for protein detection alongside your single-cell RNA sequencing. So all of our award-winning products are manufactured in-house, and we actually have the largest portfolio of antibodies for the human proteome, as well as a rapidly growing recombinant portfolio. We truly understand the importance of high-quality validation, so all of our validation data is open access to our customers, and we perform knockout and knockdown validation wherever possible. And as antibody experts, we've got really in-depth knowledge of immunoassay applications, and we can offer outstanding technical support to our customers. And as well as that, we have 7 inventory sites with manufacturing and research across 3 different continents, allowing global next-day delivery. We define our success as a company based on your scientific success. We've got over 300,000 citations globally, which actually puts us in the top 5 cited antibody companies. And I also just want to take this opportunity to highlight that as a company, we strive to make the searchability of our products as user-friendly and informative as possible. And we have a new website update that's just launched to help our customers select the right antibody. So this includes our unique 3D epitope viewer that allows you to interact with epitope structures and explore antibody binding sites so that you know exactly where our antibodies bind to your protein of interest. We've also introduced advanced filter options to help you find exactly what you need, such as our immunogen region selector toggle that allows you to filter for antibodies generated from your specific region of interest. And additionally, you no longer have to filter through all of the variations of an antibody from our search results. You can view all formats, including conjugations and buffer formulations, on just one page. That ultimately is going to help streamline the process of antibody selection. Well, that's everything I wanted to say about Protein Tech. I'm delighted to be able to introduce Dr. Kertu Tenso. So Kertu holds a PhD from Boston University School of Public Health and is now working as a senior data scientist in a health technology company in Boston. With expertise in causal inference and machine learning, she helps turn complex healthcare data into actionable insights. She's passionate about supporting women in STEM and helping PhDs transition to industry. And Kertu shares career advice and analytical insights with a growing online community. So with that, a massive thank you again to you, Kertu, for coming to talk today. I'll just stop sharing my screen and I'll let you take over.
Okay, I think. Is it looking good now?
Sorry, yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, okay, great. Just double checking. Okay, hi everyone. Big thank you to Protein Tech for inviting me here today. Like I said, my name is Kertu Tenso. I earned my PhD in health services research at Boston University School of Public Health, and now I work as a data scientist at Apri Health, which is a health tech company. And I'm really doing this talk today because a lot of PhDs feel stuck or unsure about moving to industry. And the data shows that only about 13% of PhDs attain tenure track positions. That means that the majority of us really end up exploring other paths. I've been through this transition and I'm here to really share what I've learned. So the agenda today, first I'll talk very briefly about my journey to industry. Then I'm going to talk about building an online presence and different platforms we have for that. Then I'm really going to focus more on using LinkedIn for networking and job hunting. Then I will give some tips for transitioning from academia to industry, and we will end with a Q&A. So my journey to industry. So I started my PhD in 2019 and it took me about 5 years. So I graduated last year, last summer, with the PhD in health services research, like I said, and I focused really on applied data science during my PhD. Um, I did my PhD in Boston, Boston University School of Public Health. And the thing about me is that I actually never wanted to stay in academia. From the very early on, I knew that I wanted to have an industry career. For me, PhD was to learn the skills, kind of the methodological skill set, to learn how to do independent research, but not necessarily to become a professor or any other kind of academic professional. So, um, I never had these aspirations. I was always like focused on industry. So I think maybe I'm also better suited in talking about this because I've always had these aspirations. So why I think I had a smooth transition, I do think I had a smooth transition, is because, like I said, I knew early on, the sooner you know, the better, really, so you can start really tailoring your PhD experience accordingly. You shouldn't be thinking about this in your final year. It's fine if you're figuring it out in your final year and you need to make changes, but the earlier the better, I would say. So for me, I already chose a dissertation focus that I know would be appealing in industry. So my dissertation was sort of like an interdisciplinary study between health researchers and computer scientists. So my committee was a mix of a BU, School of Public Health, and MIT computer science professor. So I did an application of machine learning and causal inference. So I wanted to highlight really like those methodological skills that I have and build those skills that I didn't have during my dissertation process. And I was really focusing on transferable skills like statistics and programming, which are very much in demand in the industry. So, for example, I didn't really know Python. I had used Stata, SAS, R, and SQL during my PhD, but I had not used Python. And then when I was looking for a job, like listings online, I saw a lot of them mention Python. So I was like, okay, all right, let me think how I can use Python during my PhD. And the way for me to do that was to do my machine learning aims using Python. So I self-taught myself along the way to really build those skills. And then I think the last thing is what they really value in the industry is experience working in teams. So I was lucky that my research position was in a sort of kind of like an industry setting already. I was at the Veterans Health Administration, and I got to work with teams and sometimes lead teams on research projects. So that's a really good skill to have because I know a lot of PhDs work sort of like in a vacuum, and it's great to get some sort of like collaboration experience to show that you can work in teams. So then I defended my PhD at the end of April. I walked in graduation in May, and I accepted my job offer in the beginning of June. So everything happened pretty fast. So now I'm a senior data scientist for a health tech company. Like I said, Apri Health is the company name. It's based in Seattle, but I work remotely from Boston. My team is all over the country. And so my day-to-day really involves all the skills that I picked up during my PhD. So I do a lot of causal inference and also some predictive modeling in my day-to-day work. So everything, and also the programming skills. So everything that I learned during my PhD, I'm really using now. So when you go to industry, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be, like your skills are gonna go to waste. They're not gonna go to waste. There's many jobs where your skills are needed or valued. So building an online presence. Let's talk about it. So why an online presence in the first place? Um, First, these days, most recruiters and hiring managers will check you out online. I think there's some studies that show that over two-thirds of employers screen candidates' social profiles, and about 20% of them say that they would not even consider someone who's invisible online. So we want to make sure what they see online is professional and looking good. Um, Second, it gives you an opportunity to showcase your skills and experience beyond just a two-page industry resume. You can showcase your portfolio, your presentations, your research, your code repositories, etc., to show your experience. And an online presence really allows you to control your narrative, like how you want them to see you. It's really all about marketing yourself, and a lot of the job market is about marketing yourself, and which is what I learned along the way. Third, um, if you share content related to your field, it also helps you position yourself as like an industry expert or a knowledgeable professional, which also helps with your image. Um, Fourth, many job opportunities really come through networking. So when I was on the market, I heard about various job opportunities from my community, and one even led to a final round interview. Although the job I ended up taking was through a cold application. So definitely cold applications still work as well. But a lot of the jobs where I was interviewing, I had heard about it through my online community. So that can definitely help. And then lastly, passive job opportunities. So actually, recruiters often search for candidates directly on platforms like LinkedIn. I have personally had many recruiters reach out to me. So if you have a good profile, you might get noticed. Then choosing a platform. So there's obviously many online platforms you can choose from. Um, I'm only going to talk about three here that I have a significant presence on. But for example, I know that Twitter is pretty big in the academic community. Um, but I personally never really got into Twitter, so I can't really talk about that. But so first here I have LinkedIn. So LinkedIn really is essential for industry job seekers. You definitely should have a LinkedIn page. This is where you can find job listings. This is where recruiters are trying to search for candidates. And it's really key for networking as well. And I'm going to be talking about LinkedIn in depth a little bit later. So second, what you can have is a personal website. That's what I did. I like a year before I graduated or so, I built a personal website. I think I used Squarespace for it. So this is really great for showcasing your work in depth and like controlling your narrative. So it will likely show up if they Google you, it will show up high in the search list and they can check it out. So it's up to you what sections you want to have on your website. But I had like an about me section. I had a research section with different projects I've been involved with, but not really like in depth, but sort of like just the title, my role, and like a brief summary of the research project. Then I had like a CV section, publication section, and I like contact section. And sometimes people also have a blog section. So it's really up to you what you want to put there. It's all about like how you want to market yourself, what do you think is important. And then lastly, Instagram, which is my biggest platform. So Instagram is really for more of like a creative way to connect with a broader audience, including industry professionals, educators, and fellow students. So some ways to use it include science communications, showcasing your science and research skills, documenting your journey, collaborating with other professionals. I found it really useful in building a personal brand and connecting with other scientists in the field. And I personally have also received multiple job tips and recommendations through my community on Instagram. So I think a lot of times people overlook Instagram for sort of like professional work networking. It doesn't come across as like traditionally professional, but it can definitely behave that way. It depends how you're using it. Okay, so let's move on to LinkedIn for networking and job hunting. So this is really the core of my talk here. So first, before anything else, you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is properly optimized for best results. There's a lot of LinkedIn profiles there that aren't really living up to their highest potential that could use some work. So maybe something here will help you out as well. Or maybe your profile is already perfect. So the first thing you can do is to have a strong headline. And I think this is really important. I think the other day I saw someone send me a connection request. And usually when someone sends you a connection request, you see their name and you see their headline or like their title or whatever. And for them, it was just a name. And then the headline was just PhD. And for me, it's like, well, what PhD in what? In what field? What are you doing? Like, that didn't give me any information. I felt it was very vague. You really want to put in more information in your headline. So that's the first thing that people see. Like I said, when I got the request, that was like the first thing I saw, and I was not like really impressed seeing that. So your headline should state what you bring to the table, not just your current role. Um, so you want to focus on your skills, the industry role you're in or you're interested in, and the value. So on the right here, you see an example of this. So you would have people usually separated with these like I don't know how to call it in English, these lines, straight lines, is what you would have like data scientist, expert in machine learning and statistical modeling, PhD in biology, something like that. Here's my actual headline. Senior data scientist at Apri Health, PhD in health services research, creating actionable healthcare insights. So it can be something along those lines. So you want to like mention multiple things. You want to see like what you're doing, uh what's your training, like your education, and like what is your value or what you're bringing, what's your skill set. um so then the second thing you want to make sure that you have is having a compelling about section. That's also something that people often read when they open up your profile. So this is really your chance to highlight your background, your skills, and career goals. You can use this part to connect your PhD to your target industry role. So the way like to structure it, you could start with an introduction about your academic background and career goals, then move on to your skills and expertise, and then finish with the value proposition. So I have like an example here on the side. As a trained PhD, as a PhD trained data scientist, I combine my expertise in experimental design, statistical analysis, and machine learning to uncover insights that drive healthcare innovation. My background in field has equipped me with strong skills in skills, and I'm passionate about applying these skills to improve X outcomes in industry. So something along these kind of lines. You don't want to make it too long, um but it should have like the juice of like, oh, here's what I can do and here's where I want to apply it and here's my value. Then next thing you want to make sure you have is a detailed education and experience section. You want to make sure that all these sections are properly filled in. Sometimes I see people's profiles where they would mention like the university, but they don't really talk about their degree or what they did there, or they would have an experience listed, but then nothing about like what they're actually working on then. I think it matters less when you're later on in your career already, but like as an early stage researcher professional, you want to make sure you're doing the most you can, really. Um, so a couple of tips is to not use too much academic jargon. Um, Focus on like problem solving skills, data analysis, project management, collaboration across teams, and then your writing and presentation skills. You want to also highlight metrics and outcomes wherever possible. This can be tricky to do, but you can find a way to do it. So numbers just make your impact so much clearer, and especially for people like hiring managers and HR team, it really helps them and like make you stand out. Um, so for example, instead of saying that you developed an algorithm, say that you increased the algorithm accuracy by 20%, something like that. Um, then you want to make sure that you incorporate key skills and keywords throughout your profile. So what I would do is to go check out job listings that you're interested in and identify the keywords that they use and then incorporate them throughout your profile. And lastly, your PhD is a huge asset. Do not downplay it. Make sure you have a detailed education section with your degree, your university, your area of focus. If your thesis is industry relevant, like mine was, I would also add the thesis title to LinkedIn. And I know some people say like, oh, nobody cares about your thesis title in industry, but if you're applying to relevant roles where like PhDs are seeked out and your thesis is relevant, I would totally do it. I did it. Um, and you can also mark down like other notable achievements, like so you can put your publications in your LinkedIn, conferences, awards, etc. So make sure it's like nicely filled in. Um, and then lastly, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. It's important to have a professional profile photo and background. Um, so profile photo is unfortunately very important. People just are, the first impressions matter and people are superficial at times, right? And what you really want is like a professional, clear photo. Like a blurry or badly lit photo is going to leave a poor first impression. So the profile photo doesn't need to be overly formal, but it needs to be appropriate for the target industry. So for example, finance and law are likely to be more formal than tech. My profile photo is actually probably overly formal for tech. This profile photo is more maybe like along the finance lines, but I don't think it's always worth cautioning on the side of more conservative because you don't know who is going to be looking at your profile. People just have a lot of biases and prejudices. And then you can also add a banner, which isn't really necessary to add, like that's the what's behind your profile photo, but it can be used to reinforce your expertise. Sometimes people also make a banner themselves where they put the keywords on top, like you could add like data science, healthcare analytics, ML, or something like that on your banner. So then it's like immediately, whoa, okay, this is what I'm doing. So that's up to you. Mine just has like a picture of data has a better idea. I put that I added that banner like years ago. Well, um, I'm sure there's better ones, but it's worked out for me. And then, okay, let's move on to networking on LinkedIn. Okay, so many PhDs are afraid of networking, and so was I. I am also an introvert to my core, so networking scares me, and I thought it's not for me. But that is a misconception. I actually think that introverts can sometimes be better at networking, especially on LinkedIn, than extroverts. So let's start with talking about key principles of effective networking. So first, you should be intentional in your networking, meaning that you shouldn't just send connection re requests to anyone that pops up. You should send connection requests to people in your desired field or the companies that you're interested in. Then second, you want to be authentic and build genuine relationships, not just transactions. People can tell. I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn that sometimes feel transactional, and it doesn't make me feel good. And I'm less likely to help out if if it's like that way. So I can tell when someone is being genuine and genuinely needs some help or is genuinely interested in what I'm doing, and that usually comes through the message, and I'm way more likely to help them out. That if that's the case. Then third thing is to be consistent. You want to be engaging with people's posts regularly, not just when you see that they have something they can help you with. Or it's the same thing as the transactional thing again. You just don't want to be like reaching out to someone, oh, can you get me this job? Like otherwise you don't care about them or what they post or their life or their career at all. It seems like very me, and not like mutual like relationship, which can be hard on a platform like LinkedIn because it already feels transactional in a way. And I think what helps with being authentic and consistent is just to be curious. And the way you interact with people is to ask thoughtful questions and have like interesting conversations. I've had really great conversations with people I've met with on LinkedIn, and I've learned a lot from them too. So it's definitely doable. But just, yeah, try not to be like a robot, just asking for a favor and then dropping the person, because that doesn't come across very well. So I often get asked, how do I find the right people to connect with? That's a hard thing, right? So I think there's four ways you can approach this. So first is what I usually do is like I literally just use the LinkedIn search bar. You can search for the job title and degree and narrow it down with filters. So like there's an example here. I would just literally type in data scientist, PhD epidemiology, and my goal is to find people who have epidemiology PhD and now are working as data scientists. Actually, the search works really well. That's how I found a lot of people I had informational interviews with. So I found this to be really helpful. Second thing you can do is to go on your university's LinkedIn page and search for alumni through there. Third, you can target company profiles. Like a lot of companies have LinkedIn pages that are pretty active, and you can search for their employees through there if there's a specific company you have in mind. And then lastly, I haven't really done this much, so I can't talk about this too much, but I think there are also industry-specific groups on LinkedIn that you can join. Um, but yeah, so you can utilize all of these to find relevant people to network with. And then once you've identified relevant people, an informational interview is a great tool to get to know them better. So informational interview is a short, casual conversation where you learn about someone's career. There's some do's and don'ts that I've written here for informational interviews. So as part of do's is like do mention why you're reaching out. And I recommend referring to something specific about their career path, like their degree or an article they wrote and you read, or their company, something like that. Do keep the request specific and be flexible with the timing. So by specific, I mean asking specifically for, would you have time for a 15-minute chat on Zoom or phone or something like that? Um, and by being flexible with timing, you just want to make it easy on them. Um, Keep the messages short, like 3 to 5 sentences. They're busy. Don't write an entire like multi-paragraph kind of thing. That's a little bit too much for first message. And then do prepare questions and follow up questions when you meet with them, and follow up with a thank you always. And then don't copy paste the same message to many people. Usually one can tell if they're very generic. Then don't directly ask for a job. Uh, I do think though that once you actually have the informational interview, depending on how you feel, how it goes, at the end of the informational interview, you could ask if the company has a referral system and if they would be open to referring you. I've definitely asked that in the past, and usually they're more than happy. A lot of times, the companies also have like an incentive system that if you get hired, they also get some sort of little bonus check or something like that. So a lot of times people are willing to refer you, but just don't ask for that in the first message. Um, then don't push back if they decline or ignore multiple for messages. I think there's some disagreement on this. I thought that maybe even just one message is enough, but then some other people, my friends, think that, following up once is okay. Sometimes you just forget to look at your messages. And I do agree. I think if they haven't replied to you, following up once is fine. But following up more than that, I think that's probably too much. There's probably a reason why they're not answering to your message. So just let it go. And then lastly is like don't expect to get big life advice from them. So sometimes people would come to me with questions like, is this the right career path for me? Should I be doing this huge thing in my life? And it's really hard to give this puts me in a really awkward position because I don't want to give this kind of advice to anyone. I can just say how my journey was, and hopefully that will be helpful for you. But you should make those big decisions yourself. I'm just a stranger. And then here's an example of how to cold message someone on LinkedIn and ask for an informational interview. So you want to keep it brief, explain who you are, why you're interested in chatting with them, and then propose something specific. So here's an example. Hi, I'm Kertu, a final year PhD candidate in health services research at Boston University, exploring the transition from academia to industry. I'm very interested in data science, let's say healthcare data science, and noticed your work at Health aligns closely with my career interests. Would you be open to a 20-minute call to share your experience and advice on transitioning into, I don't know, data scientist role in this industry? Thank you for considering. I truly appreciate your time. All the best. That's it. And I sent a lot of these out. I mean, only to the people I found relevant. And I would say like 9 out of 10 times they were more than willing to chat with me. And I had a lot of informational interviews. And it just really helped me understand what the differences in different industries are. Like, for example, I spoke with people, in health tech. I spoke with people in big pharma. I spoke with people in consulting. So I spoke with people in different sort of industries doing similar kind of things that I'm interested in, just trying to get an understanding of what their day to day is like, how if they're happy with it, how they ended up in their role, like what suggestions they have and things like that. So I think it was really helpful in me to narrow down my own search. And I did get some referrals through these informational interviews as well. And then let's say you've already done the first steps, which include optimizing your profile and then networking with people. What else can you do? So you can learn how to properly use the LinkedIn job search tool. So you can use filters to filter by location, experience level, and industry. You should definitely set job alerts to automate your search. You can follow companies' profiles because they post directly on their pages too. Then secondly, I would definitely use the open to work feature, which you can choose on your profile. It can help you be noticed more, especially by recruiters. And you can also choose if it's visible to everyone or recruiters only. So let's say you're still in your position and you don't want anyone to know that you're looking for a job, then you can make it invisible for most people except for recruiters. And then third, you can also reach out to hiring managers directly. You can either ask for a brief chat or simply message and say that you're interested in the role. You just put the application in and you're looking forward to hearing from them. I personally didn't see that much of a success with this strategy. I did do it, but I don't know if it really had any success or not. But my advisor really recommended doing it because she found it to be helpful. So I think, I mean, there's no harm in just messaging and saying like, hi, I just put an application in, really excited, looking forward to hearing. Like, I don't think it's gonna do anything negative, but maybe depending on who's reading it, it could have a positive effect. So worth a shot. Um, then let's move on to more general tips for transitioning from academia to industry. So first, I want to talk about definitely needing an industry resume. I think this is a big mistake that sometimes PhDs make. That they use their old academic CV or just like very briefly adjust it. But the two can be quite different. So academic CV can be very long, like 5+ pages. Mine was 5+ pages. An industry resume, you want to keep it to 1 to 2 pages. I know some people strongly believe that it should be 1 page max, but I think at the PhD level, you probably have enough experience already that it's worth, or like you kind of need the 2 pages. Mine was 2 pages and it was fine. Um, then academic CV really emphasizes degrees, coursework, things like GPA. Industry resume should keep it higher level. You want to include your degree, institution, and then thesis details if it's relevant. So like I said, I thought mine was relevant and I did include it in my industry resume as well. Um, so academic CV often includes a separate research interest focus section. And then in the industry resume, what I would do is have a skills section instead, like highlight transferable skills like data analysis, programming, project management, like what kind of programming languages you know, etc. Things like that. Academic CV focuses on academic positions, fellowships, CA, RA work. I think it's okay to include academic positions, but just want to make sure that you tailor it to industry. Again, not a lot of academic jargon, action verbs, quantify it as much as possible, etc. Academic CV lists all publications with full citations. So I think that if you apply to a research adjacent industry job, it's okay to include a small section. Otherwise, no. So some people really think that no, you should never include publications in an industry resume. So there's disagreement on this. I did like something like selected publications, and it would be, let's say I had 10 publications and I would be like 4 out of 10, and then I put in the brackets, and then I would list those 4 selected publications that I think are relevant for the jobs I was applying for. Uh, then same thing, academic CV lists or conferences and presentations. I would say again, if you want to include any of this, make it a small selection. Again, like selected conferences and presentations. I don't know, 2 out of 20 I did or something like that. And then the same thing, academic CV lists all teaching experience, services, and awards. If you have room left in your 1 to 2 pages, then you can include some if relevant. Again, I did the same thing as a small selection of the things I taught. And I don't know, I'm not sure if that was really necessary to add. Like that's something I might skip if I'm running out of space. But I did include a few that were sort of classes on where I taught methods. So that just to show that I'm really like an expert in these methods and to highlight that fact. Then second, I really recommend like actually looking up industry jobs that look appealing to you and then reading the skills section or the experiences, the requirements section, and see if there's anything missing for you that you should really focus on during your PhD. So for example, a lot of employers look for coding skills, data analysis skills, project management skills, but there might be specific software that they're really looking for that's more in demand. That would be great to learn during your PhD. Like for me, like I said, I saw a lot of Python being mentioned. So I was, okay, how can I learn Python during my PhD, or how I can incorporate this into my PhD so I can utilize this when I go into the industry? Or, like my job now uses like project management tool like Jira. There's like having these kinds of skills or this specific software, the specific type of data analysis, let's say like looking for A/B testing, um, that can really, really help transition if you start thinking about it early and like build it into your PhD in a way, so that you once you graduate, you already have these skills to showcase. And then, yeah, like I say here, you can dedicate a few hours each week to build these skills, and if possible, build it into your dissertation so you get exposure. That's what I did. I think it's also important to understand that you already have skills that the industry is looking for. So these include, like, obviously your research skills, literature review, data collection, data analysis. This is your strong point. Like you need to sell this. And then project management. You have experience managing timelines, resources, stakeholders. You have that, so highlight that. Then problem solving. You are used to designing experiments. You're used to setbacks. You're used to troubleshooting. You have that skill. Then fourth, you're a great communicator. You're used to writing papers. You're used to giving presentations. You're maybe even teaching. Like you have all those skills. You need to highlight it. And a lot of times in industry, what they're looking for is having the skill of communicating to both technical and non-technical audiences. So you probably have a lot of experience communicating to technical audiences, but communicating to non-technical audience, if you can get that experience somehow, I think that would be really great too. Um, and then lastly, collaboration. You have experience working in teams, probably maybe even multidisciplinary teams. Maybe you have experience in mentoring, like a student, like an undergrad student, and leadership. So all of these are the strengths that you already have through your PhD training that you should not forget about and you can highlight. It's not like you're it's not that you need all these new skills to build to go into industry. You already have great skills. You might just need a couple extra things. But other than that, you're set. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about like embracing the mindset shift that comes from moving from academia to industry. So, uh, some of the things that I've noticed is like you really need to shift from like the perfect that academia is always chasing, because industry deadlines often require practical solutions instead of like theoretical perfection. Um, and then embrace collaboration. Academia still focuses a lot on like individual success and work, but industry really thrives on teamwork. Then you likely feel imposter syndrome again. Uh, so it's a new setting you're in. It's normal. Remind yourself of your accomplishments. There's a reason they hired you. You've got this. And then lastly, connect with other PhDs who've successfully transitioned because their insights can provide guidance and reassurance. And just to bring it all together, key takeaways. So, building your brand, a strong online presence can make a huge difference in your job search and career. It can really help you there. Then networking unlocks opportunities. Many industry roles are filled through referrals and connections, not just online applications. So I know networking is a pain. I also didn't like it, but you've got this. And then third, leverage your PhD superpowers. You already have skills that are gold in industry. You do that's non-negotiable. You do. You just need to learn how to communicate that you have these skills effectively. And then lastly, like embrace the change. The transition will likely feel overwhelming, but there's a reason you're there. There's a reason you got your PhD. There's a reason you got that job. Like you have value, and you need to just believe in yourself. And that is all from me. I think now it's time for a Q&A session. And also feel free to follow me on Instagram and then add me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Kitty. That was a really great talk. We've had lots of great comments and questions. Just before we get onto those, I've just got a couple of slides I'd just like to share, just
Ah.
to highlight the other careers resources that we've got at Protein Tech. Um, so in case you are unfamiliar with us, we have a support tab on our website, which has lots of on-demand videos and blogs, and a lot of those are focused around career building techniques. So we've got tips on how to write CVs, how to build up your LinkedIn, like we've gone over a bit today. We've got some career panels with experts about transitioning. We also have an early career researcher hub, which has all of our careers resources together, which you should be able to find by scanning that QR code. Or if that's just not working for you today, then we will send out the link in a follow-up email. So you'll have access to this recording and you'll have access to our early career researcher hub. And just in case you weren't aware, then this talk is actually part of a week-long series of talks that we're giving for Careers Week this week. Again, all of those recordings will be sent out if you've registered, but I just wanted to highlight tomorrow's talk, which is our keynote speaker, Professor Robin May, who's actually the Chief Scientific Advisor for the Food Standards Agency. So he's currently holding a dual position in being both an academic professor and working in a very high up leadership and policy position for the government. So if you haven't signed up to that, that'll be really interesting. Make sure you do. And finally, everyone who has signed up to a webinar this week will be entered into a raffle to win one of the premium resume and CV writing packages from Alma.me, who Elena Hoffer is the co-founder of, who gave our CV writing workshop a few days ago. So keep your eye on your emails and you'll make sure that you stay up to date with all of our careers resources. And with that, again, I just want to say a huge thank you to you, Kertu, for talking to us today, and for everybody for all of your questions. I will just stop sharing my screen now, and then we can come on to the Q&A. So, wow, yeah, we've had so many questions. I'll start off with a fairly straightforward one. A lot of people have been asking whether or not it's necessary to get LinkedIn Premium.
Mm. I did have LinkedIn Premium while I was actively searching, but that was only for a couple of months. I didn't have it during the networking phase. I think really the benefit of that is that you can message people that you're not like connected with already. I think that's the real benefit of it. I think it's fine if you don't get it. It's expensive, right? I think it's like $20 a month. So I think it's fine if you don't get it. I did personally get it for just a couple of months while I was like really actively applying. And then right before and after, I was like, no, I'm canceling this to save money. So I don't think it's like super necessary, but I think it has some benefits while you're like actively applying. So you can be seeing it as like a investment in your future.
Yeah, that's true. Things with LinkedIn as well is they're always offering a 30-day free trial. So if you are
Yeah, I
at
think that's what I did too. Yeah.
if you are at that very crucial moment in your career now where you know you've reached the end of your PhD or you're really looking for a new job, then you can always try that and you can see for yourself if you think the benefits are worth it, you know. Um, so somebody's asking, they have not been very visible on social media throughout their PhD. Now they've come to the end of their PhD. Are they able to sort of post past achievements, or would it look strange if they're suddenly posting things that they've done throughout their PhD?
No, I don't think that would be strange. I think that's totally fine. Yeah, I think a lot of people are still interested in seeing it. Like, it doesn't matter. I even sometimes post about, oh, this is what I was going through 3 years ago during my PhD. And a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'm going through it right now. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I feel um, the experiences they kind of transcend time a little bit.
Yeah. So somebody else has asked, when should they start looking for a job? Should they wait towards the end of their PhD or should they start a bit earlier on?
So what I did is that in the last 1 or 2 years, I started doing the informational interviews. Started out with that, and then I actually started like actively applying. I think from it's like pretty much like end of February, and keep in mind I was defending in April, so I was doing like 2 months of application and interviews while I was preparing for my dissertation defense, which can be really hard. I actually had conducting multiple interviews the week of my defense as well. So some people opt to start a little bit later because of that. But for me, I didn't have like the financial resources to like postpone, and also my immigration status because I was an international student. I didn't have the option to postpone like the job sort of search. Like, I needed to really not have a gap. So I started like during my PhD, but not too early because like industry roles, a lot of them fill pretty fast. But that's also the thing you don't really know because some of the jobs could be like, oh yeah, actually we're looking for someone uh like 5 months along the along the line. And then others are like, can you start ASAP? And I did have some conversations with people and they were like, we need someone ASAP. And I was like, sorry, I can't do that. I'm like literally still in school. So um there with it's a lot more straightforward with academia in a way that there's very clear deadlines and like very clear sort of path. With industry, you don't know. Every company can do it differently. So I would just sort of start maybe like 4 or 5 months before you are finishing up. So then you have some time. But I would say, yeah, like with the companies that I end up, for me, it's pretty fast. So applied like end of February, then interviewing March, April, some in May, and then in June I had multiple offers. So then it's like it's a pretty fast process overall, I would say.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there with industry. It's not straightforward, and you don't know. A lot of industry jobs as well, they have quite long notice periods, so they're sometimes expecting
Mm.
people to not be able to start for a few months.
Hmm.
Um, and even if you are lucky enough to have a really good interview and they want you to start earlier than you can, that's not a waste of time because you've made that connection. They'll remember you for future positions. Like all of these opportunities are worthwhile. So I wouldn't worry about starting too early, that's for sure. So lots of other questions then. Some have come through about the informal interview. So if you reach out on LinkedIn to someone and you say, hey, can we have a quick chat? What sort of questions should you be asking them there? Do you want to get too heavy on the sort of learning about the company, the company field? Do you want to be asking about the benefits, or do you want to hold back on all of that and sort of let it more of a conversation?
I think it's okay to also ask about those things. I was pretty straightforward. I knew what's important for me, and so you know what's important for you. For me, for example, it was important work-life balance because I didn't have work-life balance during my PhD. So then when I met with these people, I was like, how's work-life balance in your job? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, what's it like in your team? Like, what's the general like environment? What's the feel in it? And because every industry was different. So I got very kind of different answers, and every team in the industry could also be different. So that really gives you a lot of insight. So I think it's okay to ask pretty specific questions as well. But in general, I think my questions were sort of like, so what do you do on a day-to-day basis? How did you end up finding this job? Did you like cold apply? Did you have like referrals? And then sort of like whatever. I just wanted to understand what they're doing, if they like what they're doing, are they happy in their job? Like sort of like that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people have been asking as well for advice around applying for jobs if you've got visa responsibilities. So someone's asked, how did you personally navigate the visa sponsorship process during your job search?
Yeah, I wish I could help with that because I was very lucky that I just got my green card when I graduated. So, I was on F1 visa like all of my PhD, but by the very end of it, I got a green card through my husband. I think it was like one of those what they call the genius green cards because of his like research contributions. So anyway, uh he was approved for that and I got it through him. So I was lucky that when I actually was on the job market, I had the green card and I didn't need sponsorship. I truly feel I feel really like my heart goes out to the F1 students who actually do need visa sponsorship because I noticed that all of the job applications do ask, do you need visa sponsorship now or in the future? And I do think you have to be honest there and say yes because that can cause like a lot of issues and all the companies asked about it. So you just have to be honest and I think there's also some websites if you Google for it, there's websites for which companies are more likely to offer sponsorship. So but maybe look those up and see like might where you might have better chances, basically.
That's great advice. Thank you. So some people as well have been asking, how do you find the kind of positions that are available? If obviously you only really have lab experience and you don't want to stay in the lab, how can you find what else is out there?
Hmm. Oh, good question. I mean, I guess if you don't even know like what the job titles could be that you're interested in, I would first start talking with people. I would see, are there people in your PhD who are now in industry? Like, what are they doing? Like, try to contact them and see like what they're up to, and then see. I would also go on LinkedIn and like put in your degree and PhD or whatever it is, and see what people with your degree are doing now. Like, what are their job titles? Because a lot of times people don't know what job titles to even search for in LinkedIn. And what I did is like I was like going in and putting like health services research PhD or epidemiology PhD or like any kind of like similar field. I would see what are those PhDs doing now, and it's like, aha, okay, they're doing in like sometimes they would call something like real world evidence. Like I would never come up with this title,
Yeah.
sort of like. So then I would search and see what the titles are. And once you get a list of the titles, then you can search on LinkedIn and see what those jobs require.
Again, some great advice. Thank you. I do think that's one of the hardest parts when you're right at the start, which is, I know that I want to move to industry and I've got some ideas in mind, but I don't think there's a standardization across industry necessarily on job titles and job responsibilities. So can be tricky finding those out to begin with. So then we've had a couple of people asking how successful the easy apply on LinkedIn is, or whether or not you should always try and reach out to the company directly.
I did a couple of easy applies, but in general, I think I did fill out like manually the applications in general. I don't know what the success rate with either is. Um, but I am leaning towards like less of the easy apply and more of the like actual applications through the company website or wherever the link on LinkedIn takes you. Um, and I think there are ways to make the process a little bit faster. But you kind of, I don't know, unfortunately, you do need to tailor like every application a little bit. So I, for example, had multiple versions of even just my in so CV or resume. Like I had a resume for like if it's more like a consulting kind of role. I had a resume if it's more like a tech role. I had a resume if it's more like a research kind of role. So that all of them had like slight variations. And sometimes people would even go in and change the resume for every single job, which for me seemed like a little bit too much work. And another thing is like cover letters, right? I really hate cover letters. Like they're just so much work, and I can't believe that companies are still asking for it. And a lot of times it would be optional. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's optional. Should I be submitting the cover letter or not? And I was always like veering on a side of caution, and I always did submit cover letter, even if it was optional. So if it was an option, I did submit everything. But I should be honest, and I did say I did get some help with like from ChatGPT with like writing some cover letters. So you want to like tailor it still, and like it doesn't sound like robotic or anything, but it can help you with like the formatting and how you need to think about like so I wouldn't be afraid of using some Gen AI to help like make the process a little bit easier.
That's really interesting you brought that up because we have actually had a lot of people asking about AI and whether or not it's a good thing to be using or whether or not
Mm.
it's very easily detected if you're being screened, for example, by AI. And somebody's even asked about using AI to create a professional headshot.
Yeah, I actually think I know someone who used AI generated professional headshot. I don't know. To me, they still sometimes come across as like not fully real. So I would I think I would also veer on the side of caution. Every time when you're like a little bit like unsure, I would veer on the side of caution because you don't know. Maybe you're gonna have a hiring manager who is very like anti-AI and they see like, oh, this is like AI generated picture, and they have like a very strong reaction to that. Um, I would just ask like a friend, or like a lot of times schools will do like headshot kind of like days where everyone gets free headshots and stuff. I would just look that out. It doesn't always have to be like very expensive, but like a good solid real headshot can go a long way.
Yeah. But I mean, as you even said earlier, if you haven't got access to those kind of facilities, that's okay. As long as your like headshot for LinkedIn is somewhat clean and professional, it doesn't have to be, the most high resolution
Hmm.
image that you're using. It's just so that people can understand that you're taking it seriously. So I think maybe we've got time for one more question. And one's really, I saw at the start, and I just thought it was a really nice question I think we should end on. And they've asked you what you find being the most rewarding part of being a health data scientist.
Hmm. I think what I like is that my sort of like the insights that I come up with are directly like applied and used by the company. There's like a very short sort of there isn't like a lot of red tape like you would have in academia, or there isn't like years of wait for something to be published, and then you're not even sure if anyone's gonna read it or like people will read it, but maybe not the people who are actually making these decisions. And when you're actually working in industry as a health data scientist, you're like you get the results, and then almost immediately people who actually make the decisions will also read the results. So it's like it feels rewarding in a sense that um what you're working on, you know that it's being like used in real world decision making. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, completely. That was a really good answer. I think you're right. Industry does just move at a very different pace to academia, and some people that really suits and some people that doesn't. I think whenever you're applying for a job, it's sort of always about figuring out what's right for you as well. So with that, again, just want to say a huge thank you for everyone who's attended, for all of your great questions and comments, and a massive thank you to you, Kertu, for presenting with us today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'm going to bring the webinar to an end.
Thank you.